Freddy Krueger, the horror icon, is merely the facade hiding a more malevolent and menacing figure, Fred Krueger the man. Beneath the dirty brown hat, the red and green sweater, and the razor blade knives hides a man long deformed by the insidious desires of a sexuality gone awry. A bastard son of 100 maniacs. Fred Krueger the boy grew up in a broken foster care system where he endured physical abuse. This would lead him down the dark path of being the abuser. Ultimately, we learn that Krueger preyed on the children of Elm Street. He was branded a filthy child murderer. However, darker, more sinister actions lurked beneath the headlines. Sexual abuse was always in the subtext of Krueger's original story. In the original film, Freddy intruded every aspect of his victims' lives. He was in their beds, their rooms, their dreams. In Tina's death sequence, Freddy lays on top of her more than once, ultimately slicing her from her chest downward. Take the bathroom scene with Nancy, where he is between her legs underwater with his weapon. Krueger lays on top of her as well. Likewise to the use of his tongue, the second time coming through the phone saying, "I'm your boyfriend now." In fact, the entire film series is laced with sexual innuendos and outright sexual content. At the end of what I consider the original canon, the opening monologue of Freddy vs. Jason, Krueger narrates his own story. He licks the back of a picture of a victim for a scrapbook. In this scene, we learn that Fred hovers and obsesses over pictures of his victims. The scene dripping with sexual subtext. All of this is to say, if sexuality and trauma are a part of Freddy the Dream Demon's persona, it is because Krueger, the man, carried it in life. That said, one of the most intriguing aspects of the 2010 remake was the change in Freddy's backstory and possible innocence. The backstory changed from murder to sexual abuse. By remaking the origin of Fred's abuse, the remake changed the monster. For most of the film, the characters along with the audience are forced to consider that each of Freddy's victims are responsible for his condition and death. Krueger implies that the children caused his death and subsequent creation as retribution for telling a secret. We find out, however, with Nancy and Quentin, Fred Krueger is guilty. Freddy the Dream Demon is the full fruition of his human depravity. Fred Krueger the man is the monster underneath the scars. So monstrous is he that he steals the innocence of a child through sexual abuse. The change from murder to abuse and subsequent guilt also seemingly justifies the punishment the parents of the children carry out. This form of vigilante justice is a different kind from the original, where the parents respond to the failure of the justice system. Here, the parents are judge, jury, and executioner. It is also somewhat closer to Craven's thought experiment and self-question, that if it is a truly despicable person, does it justify group murder? These changes in character and story make both Fred the Man and Freddy the Monster categorically different than that of the original. While sexual perversion may have been present in the original, and in subsequent sequels, it was always subtext. It always took a back seat to the murderous. In that way, Robert Englund's Freddy could always mix the demonic with moments of levity. It is why the nightmares and traps in the original canon often were full of sexual puns and imagery. Haley's Freddy, on the other hand, is a far different beast. His Krueger is a less fantastical, more sinister portrayal for the purpose of hiding guilt. This juxtaposition between Englund's Krueger and Haley's highlights both a strength and a weakness in the remake. By bringing Freddy's pedophilia to the front out of subtext, the remake creates a real monster worse than the Dream Demon, and with it, the chance to say something about victimhood. But in their haste to show Freddy Krueger the icon and cater to audience expectation, the remake's creators confuse and water down their version of Krueger the Monster. Executive producer Brad Fuller proclaims in an interview that the ending in the theatrical release was filmed and changed at the last minute, due in part because the originally intended ending played out not with Freddy the Dream Demon, but with Fred the Man, Nancy's original monster. This decision was to highlight and arguably give the audience what they wanted, the Dream Demon Freddy, which, I argue, was for the general population and not fans, as well as studio pressure. It is easier to market a Dream Demon than a pedophile. But this is where the strength of the remake lies, bringing to life the monster behind the scars. The most terrifying scene and the most real to life of perhaps all the Nightmare films is the alternate ending. Freddy, with Nancy pinned to the bed and dressed same as she was when she was a child, proclaims to her that he can make it the way it used to be.
Don't be afraid. I can make it the way it was.
Freddy removes his hat to reveal Fred and all his human monstrosity. It is here Nancy comes face to face with the true monster, the one who abused and violated her as a child. At this moment, pinned to the bed, Nancy recoils. Like her, we recoil in our disgust and fear, which only gets worse as Krueger utters, "I'm your boyfriend now." Here it is far more impactful than its use in the theatrical release. Further, as the alternate ending plays out, one of Freddy's lines from the film gets turned entirely around. Freddy tells Nancy to look at him and what she did to him, causing the burns and death. As Nancy brings Freddy out into the real world, she begins beating him with a bat. Ending with her standing over him. She yells, "Look what you did to me."
Look at me! Look what you did to me!
It is the most powerful line in the film and the strongest arc for her. And it is the natural conclusion to the story the remake's creators were trying to tell. By switching the ending, they not only weaken their monster, but also rob Nancy of empowerment. Reusing the line from Freddy vs. Jason, "Welcome to my world," falls flat and pales in comparison as a resolution. In the end, by changing the ending, the remake and its creators seem to lack the strength of their convictions inherent in their own story. As such, they miss the opportunity to say something about victimhood and add to the lore of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Maybe one day, Now that we live in a world of the Justice League Snyder Cut, a world of revisited edits of old films, a world more hyper-aware of sexual abuse, we might see a version more coherent to the monster of Fred Krueger from the cutting room floor. Thank you guys for watching my video, Monster Behind the Scars. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more content like this, please leave it in the comment section below. For now, thank you, and please come back to the Horror Film Prophet and look for more content in the future.